What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to the first day of Week 6 predictions. I'm going to try to get as many videos as possible out for you guys this week, but 3 games especially caught my eye this week that I really do want to talk about. I mean, obviously, there are a lot more games that caught my eye this week, but none bigger than this one, in my opinion, because it is the only top 25 versus top 25 matchup that we have to look forward to this weekend. The Missouri Tigers get their first road game of the 2024 season as they go to College Station, where they have to face the Texas A&M Aggies. And I'll tell you everything you need to know about the Tigers and Aggies here in just a little bit. But before we dive on into that, you guys know I got to say thank you for all the love and support that I have seen here. And again, I'll run through my spiel really quickly. If you'd like to continue to support me on YouTube, hey, if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button as well as ring the bell so you know when I upload. Especially do so if you are as big of a college football nerd as I am. And again, other ways you can help support, just thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. You can also like, comment, and share, and anything else you do to interact with the channel helps support what I do here on YouTube. But if you want to support me outside of YouTube, go give me a follow on Twitter, guys, at TailgateNate29. I post about articles I write, other games I call, podcasts I run, and anything of the like. So, hey, whatever may interest you in any way you want to help support me, I would really appreciate it if you would do so. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive on into this one in College Station and a possible upset bid. Missouri coming in as a top 10 team. Texas A&M, we know, has got all the pieces necessary to pull off the top 10 upset here. How do we do predictions on my channel? Well, glad you asked. We are going to dive on into some keys to the game when each team possesses the football. So we will first go through 3 keys to the game when Missouri is on offense against this Aggie defense, and then we'll flip it. We'll look at the Aggies offense against this Tigers defense. I'll give you some final thoughts as well as tell you how I think the game is going to play out, and then we'll dive on in to, of course, the score prediction I have for this game. Let's dive on into things here and start with this Missouri offense, right? This Missouri offense, you look, has been pretty darn good for the most part this season. However, when you really step back and you take a look at Missouri up and down, I mean, they've really struggled with some teams this year that, quite honestly, they probably shouldn't have struggled with this year. That home game against Boston College, I mean, Boston College definitely is going to be a little bit of a better team than at least what I thought they were going to be coming in to this season, what some other people thought they were going to be as well. They were a top 25 team at the time that Missouri played Boston College, but Boston College just almost lost to a Western Kentucky team that has struggled for a little bit this season as well, and then it took 2 overtime periods for Missouri to get past the Vanderbilt Commodores. Yikes. And of course, it's still an SEC football team, but Vanderbilt consistently one of the worst programs in the SEC. They do have a win over Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech just played Miami close, but regardless, this is a Missouri team that has struggled with, for lack of better terminology, some pretty poor teams. That's got to be something that has got to change here. But the offense, for the most part, has still been fantastic. You got Brady Cook doing his thing. He's still been pretty darn solid for this Missouri Tiger offense. I'll get you a stat line here right now. 946 yards, only 4 touchdowns and 1 pick, though. I mean, you probably through 4 games expected Brady Cook to have a little bit more production than he has right now. We have seen Drew Pine come in, and when he's come in, I think only 1 incompletion for him this season, but it is Brady Cook that leads this team. The first key that I have for them, though, is not that the production from the wide receiver room has been bad, because quite honestly, it hasn't been. It has been pretty darn solid. It maybe is not what you thought you were going to get, specifically from a couple guys, most notably by name of Luther Burden. Now, he does have 19 catches, 235 yards, 4 touchdowns on the season. He's had a pretty good year so far, but even from some other guys like Mookie Cooper and Theo Weiss, and especially Luther Burden, you were probably wanting a little bit more production from them to this point in the season. Again, that's not to say this pass offense is bad, right? They're averaging over 250 yards through the air per game. That's a pretty darn good number to have, but especially when you are going to go up against a Texas A&M defense that by far and away is the best defense that you have played so far this season. I mean, Brady Cook has got to be able to get more from his wideouts, especially because this is the Texas A&M defensive front that has been really, really good so far this season. Sorry for the pause. I had to sort of correct a number there on my stat sheet. Instead of 6 sacks, Texas A&M has 8 sacks, but I mean, that even just speaks to my point, right? This is the Texas A&M defensive front that, I'll be honest, probably could have a little bit more sack production than they have right now. I mean, yes, I've just put 2 more sacks up on the board and corrected that number, but this is still a Texas A&M front 7 that is gonna, or front 6, front 7, whatever defensive scheme they come out and play in, that's gonna be the toughest that Missouri has seen so far. The secondary is the quote-unquote weak point of this Aggie team, even though it's been pretty darn solid for the most part this year. They did give up a lot of yards to Taylon Green through the air last week against Arkansas. You go back and look at the game against Notre Dame, and where, I mean, honestly, they really didn't let Riley Leonard do a whole lot. They didn't really let the Florida quarterbacks, Lagway or Mertz, really attack that secondary either, but it still probably is the weak point of that defense, which is why Brady Cook has got to get a little bit more production from the wide receiver position. But speaking about this Texas A&M defensive front, even though that, while yes, again, it has not been bad at all. You maybe want a little bit more production from the wide receiver room. This is the running back room for Missouri that has been absolutely fantastic. It is led by, of course, the 2 former Sun Belt transfers, Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel. Nate Noel leading the way right now, 69 carries, 441 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.4 yards per carry. He's gotten a ton more carries than what Marcus Carroll has. 35 carries for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nate Noel, you could probably look at and say, is the better of the 2 running backs, even though Carroll statistically had a better 2023. But still, you look at those 2 guys, and you even look at Brady Cook's ability to get outside of the pocket and run. This is including sack yardage as well. Just under 100 yards rushing, does lead the team in rushing touchdowns with 4 of them. A&M is going to have to be able to contain that. And this is the defensive front that, for the most part this year, has done a very good job at creating pressure. You'd like to see them generate a little bit more sacks, but the tackles for loss have been there. They've been able to slow teams down in the run game. In fact, when you go back and look at that game against the Arkansas Razorbacks that Texas A&M just played in Arlington this past week, they only held Arkansas to 100 rushing yards, and that's been a fairly solid rushing offense for the most part this season. Line of scrimmage play is going to be big for Texas A&M in this game. They got to be able to slow down these Missouri running backs, be able to slow down what Missouri is able to do with the legs on the ground. But this is the best defense that Missouri has played. Again, I said it before, especially up front. It's an Aggie defense that still has good players in the secondary, but that's something that Brady Cook and all of these wide receivers, Theo Weiss, Luther Burden, Mookie Cooper, so many others, are going to have to attack. It is the quote-unquote, again, weak point of this defense, and I think Missouri can get this passing attack going a little bit more and a little bit more effectively than what they have in their previous 2 games against Boston College and Vanderbilt. I'm sure they worked on it in their bye week. It's going to lead to only good things for this Missouri offense. But on the other side of the ball here, Missouri, I think, is going to have a really tough time slowing down this Texas A&M offense because, again, much like this is going to be the best defense the Missouri offense has faced, this is going to be the best offense the Missouri defense has faced. And I probably said defense for both of them. You guys know what I mean. This is just overall the best offense, the best defense that the Missouri Tigers have gone up against so far this season. And Connor Wigman, as of right now, I think is going to be a game-time decision, and he might even, by the end of the week, be fully healthy and ready to go. I still think if he is fully healthy and ready to go, me personally, I would still play Marcel Reed. And I think there have been some other analysts out there that have said the exact same thing. But, I mean, they very well might start Connor Wigman in this game, but especially if they play Marcel Reed. And I'm just going to mention this now in case he doesn't play. If he plays, he's going to be a huge problem for this Missouri Tiger defense. When you look at the rushing attacks that Missouri has faced so far this season, I mean, Vanderbilt, we know that overall Vanderbilt is not necessarily the best team. And when you take a look at their rushing stats on the season, I mean, sure, averaging 170 yards per game, but that's nothing like what Texas A&M is going to be able to throw at you. To be able to throw at you in that run game. Boston College, hey, they've had a pretty solid run game this season as well, right? They have 176 rush yards per game so far this season throughout the course of their campaign. Texas A&M, look at that number right there. Over 230 yards on the ground. This Missouri rush defense has been really good so far this season. The defensive front that as a whole has been pretty good so far this season. But Missouri has also not faced a run game that has been able to really utilize the quarterback as much as Texas A&M has. Now, I know that I'm about to contradict myself here. Thomas Castellanos is a guy that can get outside of the pocket and run. But looking at what Missouri did against him, I mean, only allowed him 13 carries for 16 yards. I mean, Castellanos, when he tried to get outside of the pocket, just couldn't really work. I think Marcel Reed is going to be a bigger problem than Thomas Castellanos was for Missouri, just because I think, especially now, look, this is with all due respect to Trayshawn Ward, Kai Robichaud, and some of the other running backs that Boston College has. Texas A&M just quite simply, guys, has a better staff. When you take a look at all the talent that can run the football here, of course, you have Marcel Reed. He's the second leading rusher on this team, but Le'Veon Moss has been running it really well for this team as of late. You also have a guy by the name of Amari Daniels, who has kind of been up and down and wasn't too good against Arkansas last week, but for the most part this season has been a really big piece to this run game. Missouri coming off a bye, Texas A&M a close win against Arkansas. They got the momentum. They were able to really run it against the Arkansas Razorbacks, and I think especially if Marcel Reed is going to be that quarterback here, I mean, his passing numbers aren't going to blow you away, only around 55% completion, 585 yards, 6 touchdowns, no picks. He's still a pretty effective passer considering again, he's probably not as good of a passer as what Connor Wigman is, at least at his full potential. And when he's playing at his best, Connor Wigman is probably definitely the better passer than what Marcel Reed is. But Reed has still been a very effective passer. It's just a lot for this Missouri defense to handle. This is going to be the biggest test for this Tigers defense, again, as I've said many times here. But I also think the biggest test, especially if it is Marcel Reed, heck, even if it isn't Marcel Reed, it's going to be the quarterback containment. Because, yes, they're going to have to be worried about this run game, not only between the tackles, but through the outside with some pitches and sweeps and jet sweeps and things like that. But even if it is Wigman, probably not as good of a runner, not as good of an athlete as what we've seen out of Marcel Reed, especially coming off injury if he does play in this game. But Wigman still has 5.9 yards per carry this season, and yes, that does include sack yardage, and he's been sacked 2 times this season. That's going to be something really to watch out for. If Missouri is going to be able to contain Marcel Reed or Connor Wigman, whoever happens to play, and limits their ability to affect this game outside of the pocket, that's a big leg up for this Missouri defense. But speaking of a leg up, I think Kyle Field gives A&M a leg up here. This is Missouri's first road test this season. And they've even struggled with some teams at home that they probably should have beaten by a lot more than they did. Yes, they controlled that Boston College game late, but you look at the scoreboard, 6-point game. You shouldn't have needed double overtime to beat the Vanderbilt Commodores. You are a much better team than whatever talent Vanderbilt has there. Missouri statistically has been the more impressive team so far. Texas A&M has played the better road, and the stats still look pretty darn good. This is going to be a noon game at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A Saturday game, really early one. You can find this one on ABC. I believe ESPN Plus is going to carry it as well. Yes, it is. And guys, I'm going to be picking the upset here. Again, I just think Missouri, after struggling in those previous 2 games, and I even said it in my top 25 video, I have Missouri in my top 10 right now. I'm not too confident on Missouri being a top 10 team, and I think all the ingredients are here. This is just going to be a really tough offense for Missouri to defend, and I know that this run defense for Missouri has been really stout so far this season. Especially against a team that likes to run and control the clock like Boston College, but then you let Thomas Castellanos beat you through the air. The same can be said about Marcel Reed and whatever Texas A&M is going to throw at them in the running back room with Daniels and Moss. I think Missouri's going to be able to slow down this run game a little bit more than what some people out there may be saying, but that just opens up every opportunity possible for whoever happens to play quarterback, especially if it's Marcel Reed, even if it's Connor Wigman there as well, to be able to air this thing out downfield. I think this is going to be a really fun one, guys. Close back and forth game, but I do have the Aggies pulling out this win. A little bit more physical on defense. Missouri has not really been tested as much as they will against Texas A&M, and I think Missouri, the top 10 team, goes down in their first true road game. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all of you guys with some more predictions later on today. Goodbye.